The first ever live of Beneath the Surface. One that the first of many that we've got planned to talk about water safety and a few different aspects. And very excited to have our first guest, Rebecca Ramsay from Doing It for Dylan. How are you, Rebecca?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you, Phil?
Not so bad, not so bad. Working away in London, so I'm in a travel lodge at the moment. So hopefully the connection's going to be good. But
Hopefully,
yeah,
fingers crossed.
yeah. And whereabouts are you?
Well, I've double booked. I should be playing pool, so I'm outside doing a podcast because that's how important it is for me.
Definitely. Well, well, I know how important water safety is to you. So I think the first thing that we'll do is the most much is aware of who you are and what you do. But I think for anybody who might not be aware, we'll start off by introducing you. And if you tell us about your story, Dylan's story, and what Doing It for Dylan is about, because we can talk about statistics all day, but quite often I feel that water safety hits home harder with the real stories of who it affects, people like yourself. So, yeah, if you can just tell us about who you are and what brought Doing It for Dylan about.
Yeah, of course I can. So obviously, my name's Becky Ramsay. I am the founder of Doing It for Dylan, which is a water safety campaign, which is preliminary based in Chorley. So I cover a lot of Lancashire, but it has gone nationwide, even worldwide. I mean, Doing It for Dylan was mentioned at the World Drowning Prevention Conference last year. Doing It for Dylan is basically a water safety campaign that I set up in memory of my son, Dylan, obviously, who tragically lost his life on the 3rd of July 2011. Dylan was very fit, strong, healthy, athletic, good swimmer, kind person, knew right from wrong. And he just made a choice that day that was uneducated. He didn't understand the risks and the dangers associated with swimming in open water. He didn't he didn't know the risks and the dangers because I didn't teach him the risks and the dangers, and I didn't teach him them because I didn't know them. So I basically, as soon as Dylan lost his life, I decided that I was going to go out and teach people what I hadn't taught my son, which was all about the dangers in and around open water. So about cold water shock. I'd never even heard the words cold water shock until my son, and that's still the same even now 14 years later. Parents say that the first time they ever hear the words cold water shock is when it's at an inquest or in a coroner report or whatever. They've never heard the words, and it should be common knowledge, like the Green Cross Code. We should know about cold water shock. We're an island nation with bodies of open water all around us, everywhere we look, everywhere we go. So I made a promise to my son, whilst he was in the mortuary, I'm not going to lie. And I promised him that his death wouldn't be in vain. And I promised him that I would do everything possible in order to ensure that other people lived because he died. And I think to the best of my capability, I have done as much as I can. And I continue to do so. There's no end to Doing It for Dylan. There's no end date. There's no end to grief. I have been running this campaign day and night for 14 plus years, and I don't plan on stopping. I've educated more than 500,000 children about the dangers in and around open water. I've then, on top of that, spoken to fire services, police services, army cadets, beavers, cubs, scouts. I've attended public events. I've attended conferences, which you know very well because we're attending one in a couple of weeks. I've won many awards for the work that I've done, but as you know as well, I don't do what I do for awards. I do what I do because I want to see change. And I think the most important thing that I've done throughout the years that I've been doing what I've been doing is I managed to get water safety onto the national curriculum as of 2026. It will be mandatory part of the national curriculum. And that is all I ever fought for right from the very beginning. That doesn't mean that's the end of Doing It for Dylan because we got there. That just means that we've got other paths and other avenues to now, walk down and explore. Like we work with councils, I do risk assessments. There's so much that's involved with Doing It for Dylan. It's like unbelievable. Like down to changing adverts, because the narrative in the advert is giving out the wrong impression to children. So I changed the Captain Birdseye advert because the narrative was wrong. It's not something that I want to brag about, but it's something that even big companies can get it wrong. Even people that are educated. I mean, I know for them particularly, there was a lot involved in doing the scene that I actually complained about and got changed. So a lot of safety measures were put in place to do the scene, but they never thought about putting any safety measures in place for the viewers watching that scene. You know what I mean? So for me, my daughter just comes to me and says, Captain Birdseye can watch his grandson jump in the sea, and I'm like, no, Captain Birdseye can't do that at all. So we got an advert changed. Yeah, I suppose the most important thing, that's probably the biggest thing that I've done, is changing, getting it onto the curriculum. But the most important thing to me is that when I get the feedback from young people that they're not going to go and take the risk, or they're going to go and swim somewhere safely, they're going to go and do it under correct precaution, wear a dry suit or buoyancy aid, they're going to go to a place that's set up for swimming. My motto is very simple: no lifeguard, no swimming. And if people followed that rule, then for me, I think a lot of people would not lose their life. And I mean that in the sense of, when you go out to a body of open water, like for instance, local to us, you've got Echidelf, you've got the Anderton Centre. There's people there that know what to do if something happens. They might not necessarily be a trained lifeguard, for instance, but they know what to do if somebody gets into trouble with water. And that's what I'm talking about, where I'm saying, like, no lifeguard, no swimming. There has to be somebody there that knows what to do if you get into sorry, I was just reading that comment.
Yeah, I don't. I don't know where.
No, I don't know if that's aimed at me or you, Phil. I think if you shave your head for 500 quid, that's not too bad.
I'll shave my head for 500 baht. I'll do that.
Yeah. So so basically, I've just gone out there and done it. I've kept hounding governments, councils, schools to let me come in, fire services to let me be a part of the campaigns, water safety charities, organisers, events, whoever is out there, they will have heard of me if they're in the world of water safety, because I have just not shut up for 14 years. That's the truth. That's the be all and end all of it. I lost a child and nobody can bring my son home to me. So nothing that anybody can say or do can hurt me, or what I mean? Like, nobody can hurt me anymore. I've faced the ultimate sacrifice of losing a child. So,
So
I'm quite
when you
hardened to
said,
trolls and stuff.
sorry, when you said that you hadn't heard of a lot of terms before what happened to Dylan, like cold water shock, and you've educated yourself pretty much. What would you say was your understanding before what happened to Dylan of drownings, cold water shock, your water
Honest.
safety education?
Honestly, I've seen a couple of drownings in news every now and again, and I felt sorry for parents. I'm not going to lie. There's no point sitting here and buttering it up. I didn't see it a lot. It wasn't in my face. I didn't see any, water safety narrative anywhere. I didn't see any water safety posters or anything anywhere. When I started doing it for Dylan, nobody spoke about water safety. Nobody spoke about cold water shock. I had no understanding of it, Phil. Absolutely none whatsoever. And drowning, I just thought it was accidents that a couple a year happened. I didn't have a clue that the statistics were as ridiculous as what they are and what they have been for 14 years.
Yeah. So you mentioned the statistics. It stated that the average of drownings every year in the UK is in 300. Is
I'll
that
argue with
accurate?
you. Yeah, I'll argue with you if you want. Absolutely not accurate, no. So basically, the fire service and big water safety companies and stuff wanted to halve drownings by 50% by 2026. So by doing that, what they've actually done is added an extra box to the statistics. So whereas before we would just get 2 boxes in our statistics, and they would either be accidental or they would be crime related or or related, then like that now. There's 3 boxes, so we've got crime related or drug related and accidental, and another box that's not accounted for. Now, we do have a good reason for that, I'm not going to lie, and the good reason is that obviously COVID hit, right? So when COVID hit, a lot of people didn't get their inquests as quick as what they should have, so what happened to them kind of carried over to the next year, if that makes sense. But now that means we've got a box of people out there that aren't even a statistic anymore. They're not even a statistic because they're not mentioned in the following year's statistics. They're just a box now. They're just in a box. And it's heartbreaking to think of it like that.
Yeah. So what would you say from your experience is the true number that we're looking at in the UK for drownings every year?
Every single solitary year since losing Dylan, we have lost 600 people, roughly, give or take 10 to 15 people maximum either way, every single solitary year since 2011. And I swear on that.
Yeah. You can find that out there as well. We say the same. It's 600 on average. Some places do state it's 300, as you say.
Some places are stating that there's only 100 and something this year. Like, it's rubbish. It's absolute. I can't believe that over 2 years we've managed to kind of like phase out a whole box, if you want to call them, of people in 2 years. Do you know what I mean? 3 years. It's ridiculous.
That's it. There is those statistics stating 600 plus on average are out there. They're just a bit more difficult to find, which is frustrating because it feels like we're misleading people about the number of drownings there are in the UK, and we see it a lot that the families and dog owners that we help they didn't see drownings. They, like you said, you may have seen one or two every now and again, and then once they've lost somebody, it's like they're seeing it every day, every week. And so if you consider that it's 600 on average in the UK every year, we're looking at nearly 2 people every day.
Well, it's one person every 22 hours, to be exact.
Right. I'm glad that you've got that statistic better than me. Yeah, definitely. So doing it for Dylan is what you do for.
Absolutely. This is what I've done since. So I made that promise to my son. My son died on the Sunday, and I saw him Sunday evening, and I made that promise to him on that Sunday evening. On the Monday, I went onto the news, and I then told the public that that's what I was going to go and do. And within 2 weeks of Dylan's death, I was in my first school. At which point I wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't very educated. I'm not going to lie. At that point, just went into the school and. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't very educated at that point, but the story seemed to hit hard enough. Does that make sense? And made an impact. So I thought, you know what, if I can do this without being educated, imagine what I could do if I educated myself and then actually educated these children rather than just went in with my sad story ultimately. Do you know what I mean? So that 6-week holidays, because it was very close to 6-week holidays when Dylan lost his life. I went out and I educated myself, and then before the start of September, before they went back to school, I went and got everything that I had done myself, like fact checked by a big water safety person in the country, make sure that I wasn't teaching something that was wrong, make sure that I wasn't doing something that was going to potentially be worse rather than better. And everything was signed off. It was all A-OK, and off I went. And then the hard work came when I had to try and get into schools that September, because schools weren't very, shall we say, welcoming to start off with. When I first started knocking on the schools' doors or ringing them up and saying, can I come out and tell my son's story and educate about water safety? No, they wasn't very keen on having me in at all, because they didn't want me to go in and talk about my dead son. Nobody wants to listen to you talking about your son that's passed away. But when they seen it, any school can see my presentation once, and I can guarantee they will have me back a second or fourth time. Most of the schools that I go into are regular schools that I go into every year now.
Yeah. It's a very strong presentation that you give, and it does I've seen it a number of times now, and it does resonate and stick with people. And I believe you've had feedback from students who've said how it's affected them and made them reconsider what they might have been doing that weekend and
Yeah,
taking a more
I've,
safer
I've,
route.
I've had feedback from people as well because I've been doing it for so long now. You've got to think that some of these people that I've educated, they're now parents themselves. And I've had feedback that they teach their children water safety because of me. And I can't tell you what that means to me that the next generation is learning water safety because I went into somebody's school. And it's crazy to think what impact one person can have because I know I've had it. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. I look around me all the time. You only have to Google doing it for Dylan, and there's pages and pages and pages of it because I just can't shut up. I'm sure you can all notice I've only been in here 15 minutes and Bill wants to get rid already.
No. You do a fantastic thing by going and telling your story, and as I say, it resonates with people. I could sit here and give statistics, and it doesn't make it real to people. But the real stories and the emotion on and how it affects people, that does resonate more with people. So not just you, but your family and Dylan's friends, and the list that is endless that somebody's drowning can affect.
Honestly, it's crazy because I mean I won't say any names, but even very, very, very recently, somebody came. I was at an event basically, and somebody came up to me and they just kept apologising to me about what had happened to Dylan, and they apologised to me over and over and over again. And I was like, obviously, I get that a lot. A lot of people want to pass on the sympathies and give empathy, and whatever. It's nice. Do you know what I mean? But this person was like overly saying it, and I thought, what is your problem? So I said, look, just tell me what's going on. Anyway, this person turned around and said that basically Dylan had asked them to go swimming with him on the day that he lost his life, and they didn't go because they couldn't swim. And this person had held on to that guilt for like almost 13 and a half years. And I was like, wow. And he needed for me to say, no, you made the right choice that day. Otherwise, me and your mum could be stood in this same room together telling the same story. And I think when I said that to him, I think it lifted a lot of weight off his shoulders that he'd been carrying for a long time. And you know what? I don't even think I know half the people that it's affected. I really don't. The ripple effect is crazy, absolutely crazy. I mean, Dylan would be 28 next week, and I can't even imagine what he'd look like. I can't imagine what he'd be doing, where in life he'd be. Like, some of the memories that I didn't get to make with him are as much or more than the ones that I did. I'm not going to lie, because I didn't get to make them, did I? Didn't get to go to his 16th birthday, didn't get to go to his 18th, don't get to find out whether he drives a car, don't get to find out whether he gets married. And some people think that I'm just out there trying to spoil people's fun, but you know what? Come and live my life for like 2 days, 2 minutes, and you wouldn't think I was trying to spoil your fun. You'd know that I was just trying to educate you. You'd know that I'm not out there to stop anybody from having any fun. I'm not out there to stop anyone from doing anything on the water safely. I'm out there to educate people. And when people start arguing with me, it's quite frustrating, because I think, you know what? A lot of these people that are arguing with me have only been educated because of me, which is ironic. Do you know what I mean? The education's only come full circle because you've heard things that have been said via fire services that I've worked with, or police that I've worked with, or this people or that people or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And it is quite frustrating. Sometimes you feel like you're banging your head against a brick wall. I'm sure it feels the same for you sometimes.
It does, yes, but with what we do, unfortunately, we're more on the recovery side, where you actually kind of educate and save lives, and that's, I think, the frustrating thing for you would be that you only hear the statistics and the people who are saying, arguing with you, but it's untold how many people that you may have saved just by educating people, and you'll never find
Oh,
them out. But
yeah, and massively. And the support that I get is absolutely out of this world. Like the amount of support, the amount of people, it's absolutely crazy. I couldn't even possibly sit in this room for an hour and tell you how many people have supported doing it for Dylan, from famous people to people on the street, like literally to, like Joe Blogs next door, for instance, and MC Hammer, for instance, and that's just name dropping one person. I won't name drop anybody else, right? But these people.
Well, I thought you might have brought up Prince William.
Prince William. Well, I have met Prince William and Princess Eugenie.
British Empire Medal.
Yeah, I did. I got a British Empire Medal off the Queen. But I think the reason why I don't bring it up is because I don't do it for that reason. Like people think that having a British Empire Medal and going to Buckingham Palace and going on them fancy dinners, it's all well and good. Nothing changes for me when my head hits that pillar at night. My son still doesn't get up in the morning. My son still doesn't come home. So you can give me as many medals as you want. You can make me a dame if you want. It doesn't bring my son home. It doesn't change anything.
Yeah. So we were talking about how it's basically your full-time job now to go and educate people on water safety at clubs. How do you make it pay? Because you don't get any funding, do you?
No, I mean, to be honest with you, it's really difficult to try and fund it in any way, shape or form. And for a lot of years, the money came out of my pocket. My kids went without birthday presents, Christmas presents. We didn't go on holiday. We've never been on holiday since losing Dylan ever. I don't own my own home because I've never been able to afford to, pay a mortgage, because everything that I've ever had has gone into doing it for Dylan. And my family have allowed me to do that. They've been happy with me to do that. That's my way of not healing, because there's no such thing, I don't think, but it's my way of dealing with the situation. I've never even been offered so much as grievance therapy. I've never ever even been offered bereavement counselling, not even off my doctor. Do you know what I mean? Like, so my way of my counselling is counselling myself, going out there and educating young people and knowing that I'm making a difference for other families, knowing that another mum's not going to bed tonight feeling how I feel. Like you say, I'm never ever going to know how many people I've saved. I'm not. That's the truth. I'm not. Nobody's ever coming to me and saying, you saved my life today. Yeah. But what I do know is that 100,000,000%, it doesn't matter what they do with these statistics, right? And it doesn't matter at the moment, the fact that they're stable, it gets or the same, it gets me annoyed that they're trying to hide the fact that certain people have lost their lives, because more people actually partake in water sports now. More people partake in paddleboarding, in open water swimming and stuff like that. So actually, if more people are going in and we're still losing the same amount of people, we are still having a massive effect on that reduction of drowning. Doesn't matter how you look at it, more people are entering the water and more, still the same people are not getting out. So there is a reduction. We are making a difference. It just frustrates me that they try and show that we're making a difference in a different way, which then gets the public that we're doing something dodge, or that it's all wrong, and they look at statistics from one person or they hear statistics from somebody else and they don't know who to believe, because nothing's concurrent, nothing's concise. Everybody's fighting with everybody. Do you know what I mean? All the water safety charities and stuff like that, they all want to be first to do this, first to do that. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You really don't need to reinvent the wheel. Do you know what I mean? If there's a wheel out there, you don't need to reinvent it. So if somebody's got some good water safety advice, share it. Don't steal it. Do you know what I mean? Like, honestly, that's the way you go. Everybody then gets the use of what everybody's ideas are, and nobody gets the backup. Do you know what I mean? And I'm first to get me back up when somebody robs me ideas, but then I always think to myself, I haven't got the money to do some of these ideas. So when we go back to this money thing and how do I fund myself? I don't have the money to do some of these big ideas that I have. Do you know what I mean? So I'm happy to let others run with it or whatever, or I'm not happy with it, but I wish they would involve me. But, I'd rather it was at least being done by somebody if I can't afford to do it. So, like I say, for a number of years, I did self-fund it pretty much myself. For the past probably 2 years, I've held like a gala and I've held like a summer event, and that's raised a little bit of money. A guy that did like an auction of like Hot Wheels cars, he raised £1,000 for me the other day. There's like Lancashire competitions, they've just put me forward to receive some money off them on Friday. So it's all little bits and bats like that are going to keep me going. you know what I mean? But up until this point, I'm going to be honest, yeah, I've lived hand to mouth and I've done it myself. I've slept in the back of a car, Phil, because I can't afford an hotel. If that's how much it's meant to me. If I can go and see a third year group of students that's doing, you know, A levels or whatever, or a degree in university, then and I've got an hour to see them, I'm not passing that up for nothing. I'm not passing that opportunity up. So I will sleep in a car if I can't afford the hotel.
Yeah, well, that's your commitment is unbelievable there, and I remember you first telling me of that early on when I first met you about how you'd slept in the back of a car in New York, I believe. So
No, it was in
that,
Swansea Uni I went to.
okay.
So it was a massive. So that's why I couldn't afford it. So it was either I could afford the petrol to get down there, or I could afford a hotel. There's no point in booking a hotel if you can't get there. Do you know what I mean? So obviously I afforded the petrol and I slept in the car. I'm sure it wasn't my finest moment when I was presenting the next morning. I hadn't even brushed my teeth. Do you know what I mean? But hey ho.
It's the message that counts. Yeah. So you mentioned your galas. You've held a couple of galas in the last couple of years, and you brought out an ice advice campaign. And as we're in October and coming into the winter months, do you want to tell us about the ice advice campaign?
Yeah, so the Ice Advice is where the gala started. So we started last year with the Ice Advice Gala, and basically, I'd started probably a year before that, 2 years before that, just giving a bit of ice advice out. Like, so we'd seen a couple of accidents and stuff like that on the ice, a couple of people playing on the ice. I'd been sent pictures of young lads, you know, messing around on the ice and stuff like that. And I just thought, do you know what? Maybe kids need to be retold, you know, that ice isn't to be messed with. You don't know how thick it is, you don't know how thin it is. Winter water safety to me is as important as summer water safety, because people think that people only drown in summer. That's just a myth. Around about 47% of people that drown accidentally never intended on getting wet. So do you think that matters whether or winter? They might have been coming home from pub on a Saturday night. Do you know what I mean? And they've took the shortcut down by the river and they've fallen in. Does it matter whether it's winter or summer? Does that matter? It doesn't. Like that, them accidents happen all year round. Do you know what I mean? And we see them accidents happen. Christmas dues. How many times do we see people not coming back from Christmas dues? You know, they went out with their mates, never to be seen again, and then they get found by a dog walker in a canal.
University nights out, Freshers Week's always a big one, and Christmas university dues and things like that, because people go away to universities, and a lot of these universities are in big cities, very often have big rivers, and people just are walking home, and
Exactly.
as you say,
For me, it's just about getting that winter ice advice, water safety advice out there, because and just reminding people, you know, giving people that kick up the bum that actually people do still drown in winter as well as summer. You know, we don't have ice that much, let's be honest. We have it every couple of years or whatever, you know, and we have had it a couple of years. So that's why it's been so prominent in my head to want to do something big with the campaign of ice advice. But, you know, up until recent years, it hasn't been a massive problem, really, I wouldn't say. But over recent years, obviously, when them two, was it four lads went in it was all from the same family. I mean, that family contacted me, and like that's another thing that I do. I don't just go into schools and teach water safety in schools. The families that have lost loved ones come to me because they want support. So I give people support. If a family that's just lost a loved one doesn't know what direction to turn, they ring me up. I've had people ring me up on a Sunday afternoon ready to commit suicide. And that is God's honest truth, because they've just lost the child the day before. And I've been the one to talk them out of doing that. You know, and then we've become friends or whatever, you know. I won't go into who and what because it doesn't really matter. But the fact of the matter is that people do use me as a as a support network. When I've got a cold tomorrow, I blame you, Phil.
I didn't tell you to sit outside.
No, I was going to stay inside, but I didn't have a signal.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you joined us. One of those, I don't know if you're happy with me mentioning it, is Wellingborough, that a family in Wellingborough contacted you, and you've actually got a lot of changes done with the council there.
Yeah, so I mean, you obviously know as well because you came down with me and we did an event down there. But basically, the family had asked me could I support them, which I am doing, and I did do at the time when they first lost the son. But I went down there and basically with other people, yourself, the family, council, the councillors, environmental agency. Um, excuse me, I can't remember who else was there, but there was a few big wigs there, to be fair. And I told them what for because it was basically a park that the council invited families to come and visit with like a river, canal, whatever you want to call, running through it. And it was, is it the River Seven? What is it, River? Whatever it's called. I think it is a river, isn't it?
It's definitely a river. It's
Is it River
not
Tern or something?
something like that. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
not
so
sure.
what it is a river anyway, and like I say, they've got a park right next to it, and they had signs up saying, "We don't have life-saving equipment here because of vandals." And it actually came out that 2 life rings had been vandalised over 3 sites over about 4 years or something stupid. I'm sorry, but that does not equate to taking out life-saving equipment. So I'm really pleased to say that the council did listen to me, and they listened to they listened to all of us, didn't they? Big time because they put a lot of changes in, which I asked for stupid things that I never thought we'd get in a million years, like lighting because it was on a dark footpath. And when they agreed to things like that, I thought they know that there's mega changes need to happen in these places, and they're going to try and pave the way. You know, like so we've got life rings put in, we've got throw line stations put in. I believe they're putting an actual water safety station in near where the park is. We've got the moorings painted. We've got lighting, solar powered lighting put in. Hedges cut back, you know, where it's easy to access. Tours, like tour paths and stuff have been changed. Markings has been changed. Like just to be fair, honestly, there's so many changes, and I didn't. They probably took on about 90% of what I asked for, which I was very, very surprised at. The one thing that they didn't take on board, which I asked for, was a crash barrier on the road because I really thought that it was an accident waiting to happen for a car to come off that bend, that sharp bend, and end up in the water. And I am really, really, really sad to say that it did actually happen after I'd made the suggestion. Um, it actually frustrates me. And I don't know if there is any plans now to put a barrier in there or not. And I'm not even saying that the water is what killed this person, if that makes sense. Like it could have been the car accident, it could have been anything. But the fact is, they still ended up in the water.
And talking about change, as you've mentioned, we've water safety, more water safety education is going to be on the national curriculum soon, 2026, I believe. So tell us about what that could mean and what you'd on that.
Well, I'd like to see all of it on that. I'd like to see all of water safety. So, you know, I talk about cold water shocks and depth changes, a water safety session maybe once a year for each year group. All they are being very vague about it at the moment, and all it says on the national curriculum is that the water safety and the water safety code will be taught. No, I want a water, but it will be mandatory. That's the point, really. That's the main point. I've been pushing for it to be mandatory. I've been pushing for it to be Ofsted regulated, but as we all know, Ofsted's going out the window anyway. So to be mandatory is good enough for me at the moment. So yeah, it is going to be mandatory as of next year. September 2026. So if you have any kids, grandkids, your kids will learn because of something that I've done. I had 6 petitions in place, and it was only the 6th one that got any like leverage, if that makes sense. And after the 10,000 signatures, you actually get like an answer off the government, if that makes sense. And I couldn't believe it after probably 10 years, 11 years of campaigning. The answer that I got was the exact same answer as what I got when I asked them about drowning prevention when my son died all those years ago. It was to the word, it was the same email. I couldn't believe it. So I had to push to
Okay, I think we've just lost you a little bit there, Becky. Are you still there? Are you back?
Yeah, I don't know who went then. It showed that you went.
No, I think you were breaking up and then you went quiet. That's what it showed on mine anyway. So sorry, just recap what you were saying then.
What was I up to? Where did you lose me?
Well, we were talking about the national curriculum and
Just the fact that it's mandatory means that it's going to be on there. Like, it did take time to get there. It took 6 petitions, and it was on the 6th one that got us there. It wasn't easy, but on everything, I didn't eat, sleep, drink, go to the toilet. I mean, I literally just was retweeting, resharing, just trying to get as many people as what possibly could to share the petition. That was all I was doing constantly.
yeah, because I know a long time water safety education at schools has been something like I did was a 3 minutes treading water in a nice warm swimming pool in pajamas and then diving for a brick. Something in a swimming pool that it does not prepare you.
Do you know what? When it annoys me that it says on the curriculum right now that learning to swim, they've got to learn to swim 25 meters. They've got to learn 4 different strokes, I believe, and they've got to learn to self-rescue from 2 different water-based situations. How on earth can anyone self-rescue from 2 different water-based situations when it's the same water-based situation, a nice warm swimming pool? Doesn't make sense.
No.
You're not teaching them what to do if they get into trouble. Do you know what I mean? And in my opinion, if you're gonna teach somebody to swim, you have to teach water safety as well. Do you know what I mean? It's that simple.
That's it. The theory is important behind it, and we come across a lot of people who don't understand what cold water shock is. They think it's you just get tired or cramps in the water. I even get people at times turning around and saying, "Well, it was 2 degrees. It wasn't frozen water." But cold water is classed as anything under 15 degrees Celsius. Average tap water in the UK is 13 degrees, and if anybody goes and stands in a cold cold shower now, they'll get that reflex, that chill.
Like take your breath away, kind of.
That's
and
it.
that's exactly what cold water shock is, but on a much bigger scale. So like your whole body goes in shock. Take a big breath in, you take a mouthful of water in, you start panicking. It's game over.
That's it. So how would what would your advice be to anyone who accidentally fell into water? Because as you say, most people who drowned didn't intend to go into water. They were either they fell, they slipped, they were walking the dog. Sometimes we've had it where the dogs jumped in and the dog owner always jumps in after the dog. What would your advice be to prepare for that cold water shock response?
I mean, what I'd like to say is not to panic, but that's the first thing you're going to do when you're in that situation, which is very difficult. But if people could get it in the mindset before they actually went out walking, if I was to fall in this open water, the first thing I have to do is not panic. And then my blood doesn't cool down quicker. I have to learn how to float. I have to get on my back. I have to try and shout for help, if there is something I can grab hold of, I have to grab hold of it. Most importantly, I have to keep my face out of the water. That's the most important thing. I have to make sure my face doesn't go beneath that surface. And if I can do that, it doesn't even matter. I could even get knocked out, and I could still survive if no water had went into my system. I could bang my head on a wall, for instance, floating, and I could still survive if no water had went down my lungs.
That's it. Yeah, it's difficult. It depends on the water, then, doesn't it? And the advice is from RNLI and water safety advices is to float to live advice, isn't it?
It is to float to live, but that's really hard, especially if you've just fell in the water and cold water shock first kicks in, because you've not got the chance to float to live. You don't have a chance to come back up. I mean, it's very hard to give anybody any advice on how to prepare for water shock because it's an instant thing that happens. I mean, quite honestly, they need to prepare, as in do something before they go out. So if they're a dog walker, have a longer dog lead, have your dog on a buoyancy aid, don't let your dog off the lead. If you're a runner, a walker, and stuff like that, stay away from the edge of the water. Don't walk next to the water. Maybe go on your run or your jog or your bike ride or whatever in pairs, so that there's more than one of you. So if one of you does go in the water, that you've got another one to be able to help. And my advice would be to that second person not to get in the water to help, but to help by any other means possible. Do you know what I mean? Cold water shock's a really, really hard one to prepare for.
Yeah, it's a panic response. It's a shock response that it is difficult for once you're in the water to be able to control that. So to avoid going in the water as much as possible, it's always going to be.
That's the best advice, to avoid getting in. Yeah, that's the advice: prevention rather than cure, because there's no cure to cold water shock.
No, definitely. So what would your advice be in general for water safety for people enjoying water sports or people walking? So like there's two different categories basically of people who intend to go into water for swimming or water sports activities such as that, or the ones that don't intend to go into water, jogging, walking, dog walking. So for example, swimming and water sports. What would your advice be to people out there of how to stay safe in water?
My advice would be to always go to somewhere that's got good reviews, like the place has good reviews that you go into, and the people that's going to teach you or what event you're going to do. It's got, you might. I've said it before. I'll say it again. It's got people on hand that's going to make sure that you get out if you get in. That would be my advice if you're going to take up any open water, any activity. To be honest, and it goes for any activity, not just on the water. I mean, if you were going to learn to drive, you'd learn off a driving instructor. You wouldn't learn off, Peter or Paul. Well, you might, but you know what I mean. Like, you'd learn off of somebody that knew how to drive. You'd learn off of a professional ultimately, or somebody that had passed the test even. Not, it might be Peter or Paul, but they've still passed the test. And that's what I'm saying. They need to go to organised events, organised places. That would be my advice. There's too many people out there that they think paddleboarding and stuff's fun, but they can't swim. So what are they going to do when they fall off that paddleboard in middle of lake? Do you know what I mean? Like, they need to be prepared. They need to know what they're going to do. They need to have a plan of action.
Yeah, an emergency plan and basic equipment. Basic safety equipment.
And the phone in a pouch and stuff like that. Yeah, like we could put a list up, couldn't we, after this, of safety stuff. Like, I'm sure you've got one anyway, or I could send you one. But a water pouch, so you've got a fully charged phone on you if you're going out on the water. Go out with somebody. Make sure you're never, ever, ever on your own. Even if you're not gonna go to an organised event like I'm suggesting, and you're gonna do it regardless anywhere. Don't do it on your own. Make sure that you've got people with you. Make sure that you've got like a fully charged phone. Make sure you've got things like floats, things that you could chuck out as floats. You could use a pop bottle as a float, believe it or not, guys. A pop bottle. You could use a football. If you're going to try and help somebody that is in trouble with like a stick or something, don't stand up and try and help them, because the chances are they're going to pull you in because they're panicking. Lie down on the surface and reach out to the person with the stick. That way they're not going to drag you into the water, if that makes sense. I look like a right idiot when I'm trying to like show kids at school that, but I do it. I lie down on the floor and I show how to perform a safe rescue if you're going to be able to. Do you know what I mean? As for the ones that are the other side, the accidental ones, the ones that didn't mean to get into the water, then they need to be better prepared. If they're near water, any water, they need to be better prepared before they go out. So they need to tell somebody where they're going, roughly what time they're going to be back, who they're going with. Have somebody with them.
Avoid dark areas and slippy banks.
Yeah.
When it's bad weather.
My safe code is stay away from edges. Like, so stay away from the edge of the water, because if you're at the edge of the water, you've got the chance of just one false foot, one foot move wrong, and you're in, and that's it.
Definitely. Yeah. So, what are your future plans for now that you've got, well, the national? It's now on the national curriculum. What, and you've said it doesn't stop there for doing it for Dylan. What are your future plans for what you want to do next?
My future plans is simple, really, just go out there and teach teachers, because now it's actually on the curriculum. We need to make sure that the people in the schools can teach and deliver what we're expecting. I know we have got a lot of outside bodies that can come in, but if we can keep it in-house, obviously that would make it easier, wouldn't it, for schools? If teachers were taught, if a teacher's at a certain school for 10 years, then they're going to give that education out for 10 years, for instance. Do you know what I mean? Also, I'd like to obviously continue with my conferences and stuff like that. Maybe move a bit into more public speaking, continue to support families and hound councils as I do, and continue to be me, Phil.
Yeah, definitely. It's your story reaches a lot of people and resonates with people, so that's important to keep on sharing. And I'm sure it must be extremely difficult for you, and not something that everybody would be able to do, but it shows people, it reacts with people, the emotion and that real story. It makes it real rather than statistics.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of people around the country that use Dylan's story. They've asked me, obviously, but they use Dylan's story, and they say, this was a real lad, a real person, a real son, a real grandson, a real brother.
Yeah, definitely. And then, as you mentioned, it's slightly mentioned earlier, we're at the STA conference next week, the Swimming Teachers Association conference.
We are. So we're going to speak about dog water safety, if you will, like so walkers that walk dogs, water safety.
Yeah.
We're going to just obviously show our faces and share the love and knowledge what we have about water safety to as many people that come in as possible. I believe Rebecca Adlington's there, so that should be a good lineup. There's other speakers. Looks quite good. We've been before, so we know kind of what to expect. And I am obviously, I don't know whether you've said, but I am up for Water Safety Educator of the Year this year, which is absolutely crazy. So we are actually attending an event dinner. And honestly, win or lose, it absolutely does not bother me in the slightest, because we're here and we've got water safety on the curriculum, which is what I wanted to do. And nothing, like I said, nothing. I don't do what I do for the honours or awards. That's not my reasoning behind doing anything what I do. If anything comes my way, brilliant, because it means that doing it for Dylan's raising, its profile. But other than that, I'm not fussed about the awards. And I know I shouldn't say that, because if anybody's listening that's giving out the awards, I don't mean it. I really want that award. No, I don't. Honestly, I'm not. You know me. I'm just me. I don't care for the awards and the praise, and I'm not good at talking good about myself at all. I'm not. I just think that everybody should do what I do, and I know that they shouldn't, but I just think that they should. And I really wish somebody had been like me before me and taught me water safety, if that makes sense. So one of the things that always is a big thing for me is the Leah Betts story. Her dad came into my school and told us about ecstasy, and I don't know if your viewers have heard of it and stuff, but her dad came into my school and did similar to what I do on water safety. His daughter had died and stuff. And I never in my life have touched ecstasy because of that man, because of what he said. Do you know what I mean? And I think if I can have the same impact on one person as what he had on my life, I'll be happy at that.
I think you already have had it, and I think it'll continue. The more you share your story. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention or talk about before we start to wrap up?
No, I'm all good. Yeah, as long as you have me back on, I'm sure you will.
We will. In fact, like I say, we do have a guest lined up for next Tuesday. Swim Superb, who are a swimming teaching club, who are going to talk about the importance of learning how to swim as for a life skill, and how anybody can learn how to swim. It's never too late, and there's never anything that's going to stop you from learning it. It's an important life skill. It's not guaranteed to keep you safe everywhere, but it is a life skill that, with the theory, is going to give you the best chance.
It's the only thing that you learn at school that could teach you life.
Yeah. So that's going to be on Tuesday, and we may even have a special one on Thursday, where me and Becky may have another guest to talk about more safety, but that one's to be confirmed. So yeah,
I'm sure you'll see us back Thursday, guys.
Yeah. Wonderful. And in the next few weeks, we're also going to be having some more focused ones on dog water safety specifics. So for dog owners, because unfortunately we're having
that's why I haven't gone into it too much, to be fair, because I knew you line up, so I didn't want to ruin it for you.
Yeah. So unfortunately, as many dogs drown as people do in the UK, and people are unaware of that. So we are going to be raising a lot of awareness about that. So thank you to everyone who's watched live, and anyone who watched
everyone for your comments and stuff as well
on catch up. And if you have any questions, I'll tag Doing It for Dylan in the comments. You can ask questions. You can ask us questions. You can ask Rebecca questions. If anybody wants Rebecca to go and talk at the school or club, I'm sure she'd be happy to do that if it's feasible to do so.
It absolutely is, Phil. Go on, send me anywhere.
Wonderful. Okay, so thank you, Rebecca, and
thank you for having me, and thank you for all the people that stayed and listened to me yabber on. I hope you've learned something, and if you have got kids, please talk to them.
Definitely. Thank you. Okay.
You're very welcome. Big love. Take care. Have a good one.
Good night.
Bye.